Hey, everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, April 7th, 2013. I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like this week was a little bit of a lighter, fluffier week, as opposed to the last 2 weeks that have been drama-filled. Every episode, I almost couldn't handle myself. There was so much drama. And this week was a little more paced, a little lighter. I enjoyed it. Although, that is not to say that there was not still drama, because there was. Where we last left off, Adam is lying in a hospital bed, in a coma, and Chelsea is having an attack of conscience. She's pregnant. She's not told him that she's pregnant or that he's the father, and now seeing him lying here so helpless, she feels the need to reveal this information, even though who knows if he can hear it or not. So she tells him Victoria is at the door, listening, overhearing the whole thing, and just as this information is finally wafted out into the room, the beeps start going off. And you're thinking, what, is Adam gonna die right now? She told him that he's gonna be a father, and he's just like, ugh. It was such a confusing moment. The doctors rush in, Chelsea goes out of the room, and she bumps into Victoria. There was a really long moment between the two of them where Chelsea is wondering, did she hear what I was confessing? And Victoria, you don't entirely know if she heard, but she heard. So they bump into each other, and they're out in the hall talking as the doctors are trying to revive or figure out whatever it is going on with Adam. And Chelsea is very, very paranoid in that conversation with Victoria, and in conversations later in the week where she's bumped into Victoria. Victoria is, I think, hopeful for her own pregnancy. Her and Billy have decided that they want to try to have another child, even though it's very difficult for her. And overhearing this information from Chelsea makes Victoria a little jealous, I believe. And it probably ignites her to want to have children even more. And I actually am enjoying the scenes between Billy and Victoria this week as parents, seeing them as parents. Victoria is with Johnny trying to feed him, and she comes out into the living room to see Billy, and she's covered in spaghetti sauce, while Billy has just finished having, he's having to fight with Delia to get her to put on her socks. And I don't know, there was something about it that was nice. I mean, these are tiny, quaint little moments. It's not major drama, but it was nice to see them just being regular people for a little bit. And I feel empathetic toward Victoria because she's someone who has everything. She has money, she has power, she has, the career, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's the whole package. She has everything she could possibly want, except for the one thing that she actually wants. And it's difficult, I think, for her to reconcile the fact that the most natural thing to being a woman is giving birth, is being able to have children. That's it's an instinct, or it's just part of your biology, and it's a basic thing that she's not able to do. And I know that really gets up under her skin as someone who wants to do and can do anything. So I do have empathy for Victoria in this moment. I think she really is struggling against that right now, while Chelsea is able to crank out kids like she's the freaking Play-Doh factory. Squirt, squirt, squirt. Just there you go, a couple of kids. And I know that makes Victoria incredibly jealous. And Chelsea, oh boy, she wants to tell Adam. I think Chelsea wants to have a normal life. I think she's struggling to be an upright person. She wants to tell Adam, she wants to go back in time, is what I think. If she could go back in time and erase the fact that Sharon and all of that ever happened, she would do it. But she also knows at the same time that she can't go back in time. She can't erase Sharon. So the doctors come out of Adam's room. They tell her that everything is going to be fine. He had some kind of reaction. He's coming out of the coma. He's a little bit lucid. So if Chelsea, you want to go in and talk to him, feel free. So she goes in to talk to him, and he's groggy. He's been just shot. He comes just coming out of a coma, and he opens his eyes just a little bit. It's foggy. He sees her standing there, and he says, "Sharon?" And Chelsea is crushed in this moment. I can understand, yeah, no woman wants to be called by another woman's name, but the guy just came out of a coma. Can you cut him a little bit of slack? She got upset and left the room. She's pregnant too, so she probably has, hormones are raging. But at the same time, I'm like, give the guy a break. You're the one that insisted Sharon should go in there and be with him. He was with Sharon early. They were talking and conversing. Why wouldn't he assume that she was the one still there when he woke up? Sharon was there when he went into the coma. Why wouldn't he assume she would be there when he woke up? But Chelsea did not have that reaction. She left the room, and later she starts having cramps. And there's a brief few moments where you think, is she gonna lose the baby? She managed to get herself to the hospital. Help me, I think I'm losing my baby. And that's not what ends up happening. I felt horrible because, okay, am I the only one who is kind of a little bit happy about just the idea that she could lose the baby? I mean, I know that Y&R wouldn't do that a second time, and I would never say that in reality. If Chelsea was a real human being, of course, I would not wish anyone would lose their baby, but okay, just in fictional universe here, because I don't want this complication with the storyline. I want Adam to be with who he wants to be with, not feeling like he has to be with Chelsea because she's pregnant. I don't want him to be inexorably tied to Chelsea because she will be the mother of his first child. And Chelsea feels to me so desperate. Chelsea wants Adam to want her the way Adam wants Victor to want him. And I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't know, do you think it's ever going to happen? I think Chelsea I understand a little bit why she's not wanting to tell him. As she was in the hospital, she started having these dreams. It was actually dreams turned into nightmares because she dreamt that she was in the hospital and Adam came to see her, and he was very happy about the baby, and they're holding, the baby, and they're having a wonderful mother-father moment together, probably what she's always wanted from months and months and months ago when they first found out that they were pregnant, when they were in love, and she's wanted to have that moment of seeing him hold the child forever, and it quickly turns into a nightmare where Adam is taking the baby from her and saying, "I'm a Newman and you're not fit, and I'm just going to take the child," which is a little irrational. I don't think Adam would ever just deny Chelsea a relationship with the child. I don't think that's who he is at all, but I can kind of understand a little bit why she thinks he would be a jerk about it, because he probably would, especially when he finds out that she's known for a while. But everything is fine with the baby. The doctor actually hands her a copy of her sonogram, and that puts it into a little more perspective for her. The child is real. So she goes to see Adam again, and she wants to tell him. Of course she wants to tell him. He's awake now, he's alert, and they start to converse, and Adam begins to talk about second chances. He has just been shot. He's having a lot of life flashing before his eyes, laying there, got nothing else to do but to plan his future and to think about how he would do things differently this time and how he would love to have a clean slate. So he's talking about second chances for his life, and you just know that Chelsea is putting it into context for her own life and for this child. And my question to you guys is, do you think that this couple deserves a second chance? And furthermore, do you think that they'll actually get one? when Adam slipped into the coma, just before he slipped into the coma, he told Sharon that he wants her to take over his position at Newman Enterprises, and Sharon is ready to grab that torch and carry it all the way. So she schedules a meeting with the press. She's on the boulevard having a mini press conference with a reporter. When Nikki and Victor walk in, they assume she's talking about all of the stuff that happened at the ranch, but she lets them know, sorry, it's really not about that. I'm kind of taking over your multi-billion-dollar corporation. And naturally, Victor and Nikki were not happy about this. Victor first and foremost. And I have to admit, Sharon is way underqualified. She does not have the experience to run this company. I like Sharon. I think she's done an awesome job at Newman Enterprises. I'm very proud of her. But taking over as CEO is really, really big shoes. And I don't know why Adam would pick her, why he would put that undue stress on her, especially right now. And I feel as though if Sharon wanted to play nice, I think she would have consulted with Victor personally. I think she would have told him personally. Of course, she doesn't owe him that by any means, but she is still part of the family, and she had to remind him of that, you know? Victor says it's Newman Enterprises, and she says, hey, my name is Newman too, so I have every right, you know, to be in this family business, and I am also the mother of your grandchildren, so don't try to treat me like I'm not a member of the family. But as a member of the family, I kind of felt like she should have tried to reach out, tried to extend the olive branch, at least just to keep things civil within the family. I guess at the root of it all, I miss the days when Sharon and Victor used to be friends. The marriage ruined everything, and now the only thing they have in common is Adam. So even though Sharon has been extremely busy trying to steer the helm of Newman Enterprises, she takes some time to go see Adam. She goes to see him in his hospital room where Victor is there. And again, she walked in just as Victor and Adam are starting to talk for the first time, and I thought, oh, Sharon, you should have stepped away. You should have let Adam have this moment with Victor, but instead she butted up in their conversation, and it created a little bit of tension until she left. And when she left, I really just wanted to close the door behind her and be like, just down and lock it, because the Victor and Adam interaction was exactly what I've been waiting for since the shooting happened. Again, I'm not the world's biggest Victor fan, but don't you think it's odd that neither Sharon or Chelsea or anybody else who's been there to visit Adam, even Victoria was there, nobody else mentioned to him that Victor was there to see him, that Victor really had been at the hospital, even though they hadn't come face to face yet. It was Jack who went to see Adam and finally told him that his father actually had been there. And Jack even said to Adam, I think your dad's going to surprise you. And so I think Jack oddly ended up building a little bit of a bridge there and set the stage a little bit so that Victor and Adam finally could talk. And when Victor got there and all the other distraction was boiled away, they really had a good bonding moment. And I was dying to know what was going through both of their heads, because both Victor and Adam hold their cards really close to their chest and they don't want to tell you how they feel. They're not good at revealing emotions. So Victor just looked at Adam and he said, I just want to know why. He just wanted to understand why Adam would do such a thing. Of course he's grateful, but it begs a question. I would think you would want to see me dead. So why would you go out of your way to save my life? And Adam seemed to really not know why he did it. Or maybe he didn't know how to articulate why he did it, but he struggled a little bit in answering that question. So Victor took over, finally being the father, finally taking the lead and trying to be the bigger man. And he said, I think, what Adam has always wanted to hear. He said exactly what Adam needed to hear. He told him that he was sorry, of course, offered an apology, but he also acknowledged that Adam was a Newman. It's a little bit late. Adam's always been a Newman. Adam taking a bullet for you did not change anything other than your perception of the relationship, but he did say, you're as much my child as Nick or Victoria or any of my other children, and I want you to know that, and that you are truly a Newman. And probably the biggest, boldest moment of that scene was Victor just looking at his son and saying, you are my son. And that's really what Adam has wanted for so long. Adam said to Victor, I've waited so long to hear this. Of course, he's holding his cards close to his chest, but it was an emotional moment for both of these guys. You could tell that was the real moment that we had been waiting for. That was the intimacy that we had been waiting for. And Adam was the first one to say, okay, let's start over and let's stop this war that is going on between us. Let's just cut it out. We are family. Let's not do it anymore. And Victor took it. He was ready. He agreed. Victor agrees, kind of nods, holds out his hand and goes in for a handshake with his son. And a handshake in a hospital bed. It was such a dude thing. Like, it was such a man thing. Women would hug, embrace, and cry. But the most Victor and Adam could give was a handshake. It was a loving handshake. But it was a little bit funny, I don't know, in that respect. Hey, baby steps, if that's what it takes. They were baby steps, but they were powerful baby steps at least. As the week started out, Gus Rogan was denied his appeal, and it was very crushing for him, very crushing for Leslie, very crushing for Avery. Nobody was really expecting to lose, but they did. Now, meanwhile, Paul and Alex are totally on this case. They are very suspicious of Congressman Wheeler. The guy keeps showing up and asking questions about the case. Why make yourself that present? The congressman has made many, many mistakes. He should have gotten out of town, maintained his silence, got a lawyer, but instead he was buttoned up in it, just giving them reasons to suspect him. So Paul and Alex first have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I love Paul and Alex together. They're cute. Alex is Paul's wingman in the way that JT used to be his wingman. I love it. It's just so delightful. And they go to question Jack and find out what Jack's relationship was with the congressman. Alex is so darn funny during those scenes too. If we have to have a cop, and I'm not all that big on cops and cop storylines, I'm glad it's him because he brings some levity to the situation. They're questioning Jack, Alex in his charming way, and Jack did tell the truth about his relationship with the congressman and his relationship with Stephanie up until the she died in my living room part. That part he glossed over, just said, oh yeah, when I woke up she was gone. So he didn't confess entirely, but he did give them, everything other than that, he did give them information. And Paul and Alex turn around, leave, they go to question Congressman Wheeler about Stephanie and about Gus Rogan. So they're starting to make connections all over the place. The congressman decides he's not going to answer any more questions, and he goes to Jack's house on an invitation from Jack and Victor. They call him over, and it was odd. They start trying to act like they're going to bribe him. I think, Jack and Victor had offered to make a generous contribution to his campaign fund if he just kept his mouth shut and kind of went away. And I knew something was up at that point. I thought, well, the congressman just tried to kill Victor and his family. I can't imagine that Victor's going to give him money on top of that. The congressman was offended. He actually had kind of a human moment where he told Jack and Victor, "She was my daughter. You guys set into motion a chain of events that ended up with my daughter's death. And she wasn't just some woman to me. She was my little girl. And she got swept away in your power struggle, and don't think that I don't know it." So it was very contentious, but there was just a brief little teeny tiny moment where I felt bad for the guy. Victor, of course, comes back and says, "You were a bad parent. It wasn't our fault that she died. There was a whole lot more that you could have done. And by the way, I know that you killed Belinda." So Victor reveals that he has this information. And when he said it, there was a feeling that seemed to wash over Congressman Wheeler. I mean, who knows? Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But he gets very upset. The congressman leaves, and Victor and Jack reveal that Paul and his wingman Alex have been waiting in the wings. They overheard the entire conversation, and furthermore, they picked up a teacup that Congressman Wheeler had been drinking out of, and they were going to try to match the DNA, his DNA, to the DNA that was found on Belinda Rogan. So it was a nice revelation moment. I loved that Paul took the time to just take a look at Victor and Jack and say, you two make a pretty good team. Because they are very, very hesitant about being a team. And Paul also revealed that they will have immunity, so they must have, they obviously had to confess to some part of what had went down in order for Paul to put all of the pieces together. I'm sure that I don't know if they told him the complete truth or what. I'm not sure at all. But Victor and Jack, in exchange for cooperating with the police, are going to have immunity on some level. And Paul and Alex submit the DNA test results, and guess what? They come back positive. So Congressman Wheeler's DNA was found on Belinda when she died, and it almost felt a little too convenient though, because it was basically like, okay, Congressman Wheeler's guilty, and then Gus Rogan just got released, just like that. As soon as this DNA evidence came up, Gus was out of prison and Wheeler was under major suspicion, and it just seemed like, okay, we've got an arrest warrant for him now. That was awfully convenient. Don't you have to have a new trial, or doesn't Congressman Wheeler get a trial? I don't know what the deal is, but there is a warrant out for his arrest, and he was desperate before. He's really desperate now. In fact, he's having a phone conversation with somebody, his lawyer or his goon or somebody, I don't know. But it's quite clear that he is not going to go down without a fight. He said, if I'm going down, I'm taking Victor and Jack down with me. Now, I don't know what he has on Victor and Jack that Paul and Alex don't already have. I feel like Jack and Victor already confessed their part, except about the dead body, but I don't know how they're going to prove that it was Adam that moved the dead body. So if there's that information comes out, it's Adam that's going to be going down over this. So unless Congressman Wheeler knows something else that I don't know or haven't put together, as far as I'm concerned, he can just fade into the darkness. Dylan gets arrested for his bar brawl, and Avery is called to bail him out. Turns out the guy Dylan got in the fight with was the sheriff's son, so Dylan's in pretty big trouble. There are definitely charges. Avery was able to bail him out and bring him back to Genoa City, but he can't leave the county now. So apparently Avery and Dylan got back late from wherever he was, and Avery let Dylan crash on the couch. The next morning, Nick shows up knocking on the door, and he talks to Avery for about a minute, and then Dylan comes walking out of the bathroom, and Nick is pissed. Well, Nick can accept that Avery was going to help him, bail him out, be his lawyer. Okay, that's one thing. But now he's sleeping over at her apartment. Nick can smell trouble for himself on Dylan, and he doesn't like it at all. But it's also kind of weird because Avery left, I can't remember where she went, but Nick and Dylan had a moment alone together in Avery's apartment, and the sad thing is you almost get the impression that they could be friends because they're both really nice guys and they both seem to have similar morals, but they just love the same woman, and that makes it impossible. And while they were having that conversation, Phyllis comes over to see Avery, I guess, or see Nick, I can't remember. But she comes over to Avery's apartment and she walks in on their conversation, and it was interesting. Phyllis is creeping. Phyllis knows what's up. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this little triangle is happening. In the back of her mind, she was thinking, In fact, she goes to the coffee house and sees Dylan there later, and they sit down and talk to each other for a little bit. And Phyllis gave Dylan a little bit of encouragement. She said to him, Avery and Nick, it's not gonna last. So she, I think, is giving Dylan a little bit of momentum, but she's also, I think, trying to console herself a little bit. And I don't know, if she's truly over Nick and she's with Jack, why should she be concerned about whether or not Nick and Avery last? I don't know. I'm sure I would be too. I'm sure that I would be too. And it may not even be that she's still in love with Nick, although I think that she is. It may just be that you kind of don't want your ex to get involved with somebody else, anybody else, especially your sister, and fall magically and deeply in love right after your marriage has ended. No matter what the situation, that's gotta sting. So I guess I can understand why she is thinking that their relationship is not going to last. But Nick is trying really hard to make it last. He wants to do everything he can to keep Avery. We actually went back to the underground this week. My goodness, like there was so much trouble trying to open up the underground. The electricity and everything was wrong with that place, and we've only seen it a couple of times, so it was kind of nice to be back at the underground. Nick has offered Dylan a job only because Dylan needs to pay back Avery for the bail money that she lent him. And Nick figures, keep your enemies close, or keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I'll give this guy a job. That way I know that he's getting a steady paycheck. I'm going to give him as much work as I can, and then he can pay Avery back and get off my back. Although I don't know why Nick didn't just give him the money. It seems odd that Nick is bringing Dylan into their lives even further. The underground is their private little love nest in a way. I don't know why he would want Dylan to work there. I would get Dylan a remodeling job or something. Take him back to Sharon's house, have him work on the ranch, whatever it is, but I would keep him away from my woman. Nick is ready to buy this guy a bus ticket out of town, and I can't really blame him. Nick sees that it's going to be awkward right away. There was a scene where Nick and Avery are smooching, and Dylan walks in, and it's an awkward situation. So after Avery leaves, again, Nick and Dylan have a brief conversation, and Nick says, you know what? How about this? I'm Nick Newman. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a Newman, and I can, if you want, I can help talk to the sheriff, and I can ask him to bend the law a little bit to get you out of these charges, and then you can just leave town. We don't have to see or hear from you ever again. How about that? Did you know that I'm Nicholas Newman? It was odd. It was such a Victor-esque moment. Dylan looked at him right in the face and said, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, bending the law. How do you think that Avery would feel about that? It was odd. Nick kind of bending his morals, offering to bend the law. Because Nick said, I don't usually like to use my name or throw my weight around like that, but for this situation, I am willing to do it. And it was just very odd, especially because Avery is all about justice. And here Nick is like, I'll bend the law if I need to. And Dylan called him out on that. So that was an interesting little moment. I think deep down Nick does have elements of his father. Control specifically. I think Nick does like to control his situation. He didn't do it as much with Phyllis, but he did it with Sharon. Will he do it with Avery? This is the question. I don't know. By the way, Dylan staying in town means he will have more chances to have scenes with Sharon. They bumped into each other at the coffee house again, and it was a cute little scene. See, they both seem like nice people, and I think that they would make a nice couple, but I don't know, the heat for me is with Dylan and Avery. I think that Dylan staying in town, which of course he was going to, just means more chances that Avery might change her mind and decide to be with him. Although not if Nick has anything to say about it. Nick is ready to seal this deal. He actually sets up some candles at the underground, and he finally gets around to proposing to Avery. He wanted to do it last week or last night or whatever the time frame was in Genoa City, but he wanted to propose to her before when he got interrupted by Dylan. And that's just so representative of probably what their life is going to be like. Nick is going to keep getting interrupted by Dylan. But he manages to finally go through with it. He proposes to Avery, and that was the end of Friday's show. She was just sort of looking at the ring and looking in his face and seeming speechless. And I have to be honest with you here, I don't know what she's going to say. Phyllis is just now getting around to telling Nick about everything that happened between Summer and Jamie? Everything that Summer did to Jamie? Phyllis was trying to talk to Nick about Summer in general, and she brought up the Jamie thing. Nick was completely clueless about that, and Phyllis said, oh, Summer didn't tell you about it? I told her to tell you about it. You're relying on Summer to confess her crime, really, and parlay the info to Nick? This is parenting? Really? What child is just gonna go ahead and just be like, oh yeah, and by the way, more strict parent, I did this really bad thing. I mean, who would do that? I think it's like Y&R must have realized, probably from fan feedback, that way too late, that Summer was getting off the hook way too easily, and they decided to go ahead and toss that in there because Nick had a talk with her and straightened her out. And I have to say, it needed to happen. I'm glad Y&R fixed that and went back to that. It is never too late for going and fixing something, because Nick needed to punish her. I needed some resolution on everything that happened with Jamie. That just fell so far short for me. I wish they would bring Jamie back and do something way more interesting. And I want to see Jamie come back maybe a little bit stronger, a different person. And I think that'd be a really good thing in a couple of months to see Jamie. And maybe he's really adapted to his life in Washington, D.C. and he comes back and he's really cool and awesome and he's got a bunch of friends and he just shows Fen and Summer how it's done. That would be so cool. But I was very happy to see Nick putting the smack down on her, saying, you know, you're going to be doing some volunteering, young Missy, because that's what I would have done for her in the first place. In the first place, I would have had her going and talking and doing some volunteering with some underprivileged kids, because Summer needs to learn that lesson. She's very, I'm a Newman and I shouldn't have to ... And that's not the way to raise kids. And I know that that's not consistent with Nick's morals and Nick's parenting skills. So I was glad to see that scene. And Summer had that attitude too later when she was at the coffee house with Noah. Noah is wanting to get some independence from the Newman family. Really, really funny comment, by the way. Summer and Noah are bemoaning the fact that their parents are so involved in their lives, and Summer asks, when is that going to stop? And Noah said, gee, do you want me to ask Dad when Victor decided to stop butting into his life? So true. That was an excellent, excellent moment. But Noah is looking for apartments, trying to see what he can afford, and that's not a whole lot on a bartender's salary. Really, I think Noah probably just wants some place to be able to screw Adriana in private. That's probably more of the motivating factor. But Summer is looking at Noah saying, you have a trust fund. Why do you have to even buy an apartment? Why do you even have to worry about money? And it's just that air about her. I'm rich, we're Newmans, why should we have to ... And that is something that just sticks in my craw. I mean, even Abby didn't really act like that. So she's very overprivileged, and I think she needs something to kind of bring her back down. I can appreciate the Kyle storyline that's going on with her right now, but I think Summer needs to have her moment. You know, she needs to have a moment with an underprivileged kid, or something needs to happen that's an extended storyline to really teach that girl a lesson. But I don't know if that's gonna happen right now. She got sex on the brain. So does Noah, frankly. Noah gets up to get a drink of coffee, and a cup of coffee, and Summer picks up his phone and sees a nudie picture that Adriana has texted to Noah, and Noah just takes a look at it and says, yeah, she's been doing a lot of that lately. And then Noah bolts out of the room like his penis is a compass and it is pointed toward his girlfriend, and he just leaves Summer alone. It was so funny, but that little nudie picture planted a seed in Summer's oh so fertile mind. The next thing you know, Summer has broken in to the Abbott house. Abby stopped her at the door because she knows that this crush is dangerous. But Summer finds her way into the house. Next thing you know, she is in Kyle's bed, half dressed, and he's coming out of the shower, and they're alone in the house. The girl is persistent. She gets persistent points. But she gets stalker points too. Who does that? It sounds all romantic if maybe you're involved in a mutual relationship, but that's not the way to get the guy to like you. Or is it? I don't know. You guys tell me. For all of the hubbaloo that's going on with the Summer and Kyle relationship, do you think that Kyle is secretly into it? Kane took Katherine to the hospital this week to finally try to get to the bottom of what's going on with her and the memory loss. I am so happy I'm so appreciative toward Kane for sticking by Katherine in this really difficult time. But at the same time, what about Jill? Or what about Nikki? I mean, I feel like somebody else that was closer to her should have been there. Not that I don't appreciate Kane, but have Nikki and Katherine even seen each other since the wedding? That feels odd to me. There needs to be some kind of connection point. Nikki, I feel, should be holding Katherine's hand through this, as Katherine should be holding Nikki's hand through her MS. It seems odd. I mean, Jill was in a scene later in the week. Why couldn't Jill? Well, Jill is so, you know, I mean, Jill is judgmental, and Kane was sweet and tender, so I am glad he was there for her. The doctor came in, did a bunch of physical tests with her, and then he did a memory test where he asked her a series of questions, and she passed with flying colors. I was just so proud of her because, frankly, I could barely remember the house pen apple thing. He was like, I'm gonna tell you a phrase at the beginning of this, and then I'm gonna ask you at the end, and you tell me if you remember it. And it was house pen apple, and I was in my head, I'm like going, house pen apple, house pen apple. Hopefully I can remember it. I was trying to remember it, and frankly, he was asking some pretty hard questions in between there, like how many nickels are in 80 cents? I don't know the answer to that right now. I cannot tell you the answer to that. So I was very proud of Katherine. She's sharper than me in some ways. So what's the problem? If she's passed the test, then what is wrong with her? I don't know. I don't understand. Well, she she also kind of notices that Kane is having problems as well. You know, that he's not mentioning Lily, that he is kind of dodging that topic, and that he probably should be home, but he's focusing on her, and she realizes that maybe that has something to do with what's going on in their relationship. And Kane walked in on Lily and Tyler embracing last week, and it was innocent. I mean, it wasn't a sexual thing, but at the same time, I hate to say it, but Lily is the one that's being the jerk here. I totally understand what Kane is all about. I understand why he reacted the way that he did, and I feel like Lily is really being a jerk by continuing the relationship with Tyler. I've said it like the past 2 weeks. Kane, realizing that his very mild relationship with Chelsea, where there was no touching, was making Lily uncomfortable, so he stopped seeing Chelsea. Lily said she was going to stop being with Tyler, and she's still doing it. I feel like Kane's trying and Lily's not trying as much. I mean, did Kane ever hug Chelsea? Did he ever even touch her? Gee, I wonder what could have happened to that box of valuables that Katherine was going to donate to charity. It just disappeared. The charity place didn't get it. It's nowhere around the house. Gee, where could that be? Well, Jill is on the case, and she thinks that Katherine forgot. She assumes that Katherine forgot to take the box. And that's not it at all. Katherine's now taking the blame for something that got stolen from her. It's bad enough, the Katherine memory stuff. It breaks my heart. And now to know that Chloe and Kevin are taking advantage of her on top of that, I hate it. I hate it so much. Chloe stole it. Kevin thought about it, but Chloe stole the box. That doesn't even seem like her. That doesn't even seem Chloe-y to me. She stole the box, brings it to the coffee house, and Kevin's now got to fence it. He's got to try to get money for it so that they can turn their power bill back on. What? I don't understand. I don't feel that getting the power turned back on is greater than completely betraying someone who has been amazing to you for so long. Like, if you needed a little bit of money, even if it was a couple of $1,000s, Billy would have given Chloe the money. Considering Delia lives with them, she could have quietly, privately gotten money from Billy, gotten the lights turned back on. Besides all that, Katherine would have given them the money. She would have straight up written a check if they would have asked for it, but she didn't do that. Esther would have given Chloe money. Gloria, Michael, they all would have probably given money to get their lights turned back on. They have a child, for crying out loud. There was any number of people who would have been available to write them a check. Chloe and Kevin did not have to steal. Even though Lauren told Carmine that it's over, Carmine insists that he needs one last night with her. And for some reason, Lauren feels the need to give it to him? That doesn't make any sense to me. And furthermore, how is Carmine affording these expensive rooms at the clubs? And he makes me want to puke. And I don't understand why Lauren continues to indulge him. If it's over, it's over. It should never have started, but if you say it's over, then let it be over. I mean, Lauren was pretty much scared straight last week when Michael filed for the official separation, or he had the papers drawn up for the official separation. It scared her straight, and she had this big moment where she decides she wants her marriage to work. And she goes, Michael and her in the apartment, and she says, I want my marriage, and I want us to get back to where we were, and I'm willing to work on it, and I love you. And it was such an emotional moment where she really seemed that she was determined to make it work with him. And in the middle of it, Carmine is calling her, and she picks up the phone. I mean, granted, Michael was like, okay, well, whoever's calling, we'll just keep calling back, so why don't you answer the phone? So she answers the phone and talks to Carmine in very, code, in I'm having an affair code. This will end our transaction. If I come now and do this business, this will end our transaction. Come on, nobody talks like that. I would know right away. Like, she might as well have just had a neon sign on her head that said, I'm having an affair. But Michael he wants to give her the space that she needs. But first of all, I would never have taken that call. They were having such an intimate moment. I don't even take calls during dinner. I don't look at the messages during the dinner. I have set points where it's this is family time. I'm not going to be doing business. And Lauren is in the middle of this huge moment with her husband. It's like a life life-altering moment, and she agrees to take a phone call from freaking Carmine? And he's on the phone. He's like saying he's all telling her that she owes him. That she needs to come to the hotel and have one last goodbye with him because she owes him. She don't owe him nothing, not a single thing. And for some reason, she indulges it and she makes up an excuse. She leaves this intimate moment with her husband to go say goodbye to Carmine. And I don't know if it's because she's afraid that he's going to tell. I don't know if she's feeling blackmailed almost or what. But as soon as she gets there, Carmine completely switches his story and he's all sweet and he's telling her, and he actually, like, he literally said, "You owe me," when he was on the phone. And then she gets there and he says, "You owe me nothing." And he's all sweet talking and kind of lulling her into a false sense of security and being overly accommodating. Pure manipulation. And I don't like it. And I don't like how aggressive he is with her. She's told him repeatedly that it's over. It's clear that on some level that is what she wants. And he keeps making advances. He's like touching on her and she's begging him to stop. But it's odd. The sex cannot be that good. Sex has an emotional component to it, and I don't feel like she feels emotionally attached to Carmine, or that part hasn't been built up. I don't know, but he's touching on her and she seems compelled to let him. Like, it's like a drug. You know, how you say you're going to quit and then you can't quit, or smoking or coffee or whatever your addiction is. But, how many more last times are there going to be? Because Carmine doesn't seem to have to even try very hard. Like, he just works his voodoo sex magic on her and then she gets into bed with him again. I don't understand how she could get into bed with him. I don't understand, furthermore, how she let herself fall asleep. She let herself fall asleep and stay with Carmine overnight, leaving Michael completely empty-handed, has no idea what has happened. She could have been hurt. She could be dead for all he knows. She slept over. I hate Carmine. I hate him for doing this to her. She wakes up in the morning and he's just staring at her, just gazing lovingly and creepingly at her. And she says, first of all, why'd you let me sleep in? Second of all, why didn't you wake me up when you woke up? This is intentional. He's trying to ruin her marriage. And then as she's standing there like panicking, she gets a phone call from Michael, with Carmine standing in the background in his tiny little boxer briefs. Tiniest little boxer briefs I've ever seen. Those have got to be riding up your crotch all day. I don't even know how a man could wear those. That's all show. Those are not functional boxer briefs. Those are heavy-handed affair briefs. Boxer briefs. Or underwear. I don't even know, but whatever. So she takes the call from Michael and she comes up with this excuse that, like, she was working so hard and she fell asleep on the couch, and that doesn't make any sense. Michael could have easily known that that wasn't the case. If she didn't come home last night, don't you think that Michael would have gone to the office and looked for her and known that she didn't sleep on her couch? But that's not the case. She's just making up excuses. I have a bad feeling that Carmine's going to do something, like he's going to tell on her, because first of all, he doesn't listen to her when she said no repeatedly, "I don't want this." And second of all, he is dangerous. Let us not forget that he is a dangerous, dangerous guy. And I am so disappointed in her for getting all caught up in this nonsense. Michael forgives her, of course, and they go out and they have breakfast afterward, and then they go home and they're having couch snuggle time. But to think that Lauren would give this big speech about how she wants to get her marriage back together, and then she would go off to work and stay on the couch and not call, that she would stay out all night and not call, is not even consistent. Michael has got to be somewhat suspicious. Like, I cannot help but wonder, is there any chance that Michael either knows what's going on or at least suspects it? Okay, you guys, that is just about it for this week. There were no more character profiles this whole week, which was a little sad. I think there was a couple that was missing. What character profiles weren't there that you would have liked to see? Leave me a comment and let me know what you think about that. I am definitely disappointed to not see more of those, but I have to mention that they've kept the intro music, like it's a new intro transition. Like they do the introduction, the introductory scenes, and then it just musically transitions so perfectly into the credits. It's awesome. I love it. That's a big thumbs up from me, YNR. So that's good. Some good things have come out of that. I think the show's really on track, and I'm curious to know what you guys have to say about it this week. So again, don't be shy. Feel free to leave me a comment, and I'll be back next week to chat again about our YNR. So everybody have a good one. Love ya. Bye.